Hello all, Rick here. In the past I have covered the emblems of both the Romulans and Vulcans, as both of these have storied in-universe history behind them, one being the Idic symbol, the other being the Imperial Raptor. But of course, there are many other logos across Star Trek that equally have a history behind them, but perhaps not enough to warrant their own videos, so I thought I'd compile them into one for you. Of course, much of this lore-wise was derived after the fact, but I love that it inspires such stories and lore, so let's begin with the Cardassians. The Cardassian Galor standard is the identifiable image of the Cardassian Union, so iconic to them that they even mirrored it in their ship designs. The origin of the symbol as the banner of the Central Command comes from the mythological warrior king Galor, who, yes, also has a ship class named after him. It would be similar to a ship being named the King Arthur class. Galor was a religious leader who came to power in Cardassian times of antiquity, amassing a large following before eventually becoming a nation builder. His operatives and armies were predominantly trained in subterfuge and stealth tactics, which led him to be practically undefeated in battle, because he circumnavigated traditional warfare in favour of securing a brutal and quick win. Because of his shadowy acts and religious significance, he also developed a reputation as a practitioner of dark magic, so we must be talking of the Cardassian Dark Ages in terms of setting. Eventually, he secures himself a position of some power, becoming king of his own nation, and after his passing, a church followed in his name, adopting his likeness as their sigil. This featured the first iteration of the crest Cardassia would come to know, featuring the cowled and watching Galor. With the rise of the Central Command in the 1800s, the Union cracked down on religious expression, abolishing several spiritual beliefs over the following centuries and taking for itself the mythology of Galor. The appeal to the new government was Galor's role as an unsurpassed leader and nation builder through keen observation and preemptive action. The emblem, as it exists now, features Galor still under cloak but staring outwards and wearing a mask, itself a relic of another forgotten religion, appropriated by command. To represent its military prowess and willingness to use force, the right-hand side of the cloak conceals a dagger, while the left dons a badge of office. This emblem of Galor was chosen to be an example of an ideal Cardassian, a powerful, near-mythological figure who places state and duty over all, always vigilant and ready to defend Cardassia from the shadows if need be. At least, this is how the Central Command interpreted it, and made concerted efforts to co-opt as much of the Galorian myth as possible to suit their vision of the planet. Over the centuries, it's likely that the logo changed and became more abstract, leading to the current version, and variations of other divisions or parts of the Union adopted the same sigil in various colours. These simply represented different roles, and minor stylistic alterations were included. However, the most variation we see is in that of the Obsidian Order. Here their emblem is faded into just the cloak. All identifiers of a person are gone, the body hidden from sight. The analogy here is obvious and fitting for the spy agency turned secret police, that they are unseen but always present. Another species that seems to model their ships based on their logo are the Ferengi. Well, not quite as literally as Cardassians. The Ferengi logo is a dot enclosed by a larger shape than a third. While initially designed rather simply as a denotion of rank, the lore is more interesting. Firstly, it was side-on to mirror Ferengi writing, which similarly went from left to right, but the logo was basically there as a representation of the Ferengi's worldview. Everyone is out to make profit and will do all they can to climb over you to get there. Capitalism to the extreme. Each layer is devouring the next, showing the cutthroat nature of the universe as the Ferengi perceive it, everyone consuming the smaller fry to survive. Quite a cynical viewpoint, but then again that's what late-stage capitalism gets you. Sometimes the logo was rolled onto its side to fit into other designs, but there was little ascribed meaning to that. An interesting thing to note is that in their loose military structure, it was common for officers to tattoo their rank onto their lobe, with the emblem and bars next to it denoting their authority and success as a businessman. By the 32nd century, however, the logo is rather different. It vaguely resembles its prior form, but has changed to a hexagonal instead of oval shape. The seam in the middle is absent, and it no longer features the three parts being devoured. Symbolically, this could be because, by this time, Ferengi is a Federation world and seems to have adopted a more cooperative view of the galaxy, their sigil reflecting this. The Andorian emblem remains practically unchanged since its creation as the banner of the Imperial Guard. This image is pretty much a stylized representation of their home planet, but it's a little more complicated than just a picture of Earth like the humans used. Procyon, the Andorian system's Starfleet designation, is home to the gas giant occasionally referred to as Andor. Andoria is the icy moon of this giant, so the large blue circle represents that gas giant. Presumably the large cutout is the largest moon of Andoria, while the others represent the other moons surrounding the planet for a total of 27 satellites. These range in size, with them not exactly depicting to scale for the sake of making it an identifiable emblem, but as a moon-bound society, early space exploration for the Andorians saw them travelling to and among their neighbouring satellites. Considering this was the beginning of their interstellar advancement, colonising the many moons of Andor was a foundational first step into forming their empire. Originally, there was a myriad of Andorian text across the bottom, but this was lost upon founding the United Federation of Planets. The Imperial Guard took on a new logo after this, with their old logo becoming the sigil for Andoria. The Tellarite logo is a diamond with plenty of examples of their written language. However, as far as I'm aware, it's never been translated. Their primary language is Tellaran, which is like renaming our languages to Earthlish. The likelihood is that it reads something like Tellar Prime, or more likely, the United Planets of Tellar. That's right, the Tellarites actually had a unified colony set up named this before the United Federation of Planets was a thing, so it seems more appropriate that their emblem would allude to all of their territory. Let's round this off with the Klingon emblem. Known as the Heart of Virtue, the emblem was derived from who else but Kahless. However, its exact origin is shrouded in hyperbole and myth, as much of Kahless's life was. What seems to be apparent is that he used this symbol upon his weapons as a crest of his own, belonging to no great house until he founded his own. While it's unlikely the line of Kahless still continues to this day, his symbol remained the emblem of the Empire. During the early 23rd century, however, this logo took a back seat to the pride of the other great houses, as the Klingons descended into infighting and trying to one-up each other, displaying their crests more proudly than that of the Empire as it became more feudal. It was not until the formation of the centralised Klingon Defence Force that the Empire began to act more as a unified power once again, at least more so than before. So, if this crest is from Kahless, from where did he derive it? The Tulk-Gob trefoil was created after the defeat of a tyrannical leader. 3 allies of this tyrant, Ugat, Kolas, and Tork, bore witness to the duel of their commander against Kahless. When their leader was slain, they respected the honourable defeat and placed their weapons at the feet of Kahless, who returned the respect by recruiting them to his side. He declared the 3 daggers as representing the pillars of Klingon conduct, the foundations of honour, strength, duty, and sacrifice. Enclosing them in a drawn circle, he took this image as his own crest, and would emblazon it upon his own sword, a weapon that existed prior to the forging of the bat'leth. This in turn gave rise to the rumour that the emblem was a literal depiction of Kaelus's blade, but that's not the entire truth. This makes the sigil of the Klingon Empire one born from respectful conduct and a true act of honour between former enemies turned staunch allies, but dressed in the form of a weapon. And you know what? That is pretty fitting for the Klingon Empire, when they're actually not busy fighting their own internal schemes. So, there are more emblems to cover, but I thought these were the most pressing, and with enough interesting lore around them to pique your interest. As I said, if you want more, I have a dedicated video on the Vulcan Idic and a Romulan Raptor, including their alterations in time, and I may do another of these videos. Until the next one, I've been Rick. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.